going to keep going. So legislation, put forward legislation, priorities with legislation, so it's not coming from lobbyists. I mean, I do think people need to take the money out of Washington, right? Money out of politics, regardless. Okay, and then also, I don't think it's a good idea for the country to be run by executive orders, because then that does kind of make you an autocrat or a dictator. But if you're looking for, but again, this is Project 2025 suggested by the Heritage Foundation, which Trump hasn't endorsed. This is just a roadmap, a transition plan, a way forward, which he hasn't endorsed, But let's find out about Project 25, as explained by the people who actually wrote it and put it together, and try and figure out what their motives are.
Some from the legislative perspective, because some of what we look to do here is lead the way and have urge a president to lead the way in changing the law, not just issuing executive orders, but permanent changes to how American government works to better serve the American national interest and the American people. And all of those inputs are incorporated. We don't agree on everything all the time. You may have noticed that here or there in the conservative movement, but we reflect alternative options, and DHS is a good example of this. We start out with a primary recommendation, which may surprise some of you, and that is to get rid of the Department of Homeland Security. Well, maybe it doesn't surprise that many of you. But we also...
When did the Department of Homeland Security come into existence? Was it often? Nobody ever wants to hear those words. 9/11. Anyway, okay. Obviously, no one ever wants to get rid of intelligence security, Homeland Security. Yeah, it sounds pretty important, doesn't it? But then, there are a lot of. You've got the CIA, the FBI, Anyway, keep going.
Play the probabilities before I went to the dark side.
No, it absolutely is not totally. It's raining now. It's raining here, so I might have to go in a minute, but let's keep going.
I went to law school. I was an engineer. I try to stay in touch with the numbers, and we think the odds of that, I don't want to bet on them, but we also worked, well, what if it doesn't get broken down? And by that, we don't mean get rid of the missions. We mean better manage from a national standpoint how American security is protected, how American responsiveness is protected. You think of FEMA, for instance. And we go through them agency by agency as well, including some of the things we think we should be rid of, like the TSA. It isn't that there shouldn't be security.
What's the TSA? Has that got something to do with travel or something? Travel Security Agency? Okay, whatever. I don't think I'm going to get copyright struck by Heritage Foundation trying to debunk the Project 2025 myths. But just in cases,
But government doesn't need to run that, just by way of example. And that's not new to the conservative movement, but I think it is new to a lot of America. And we lay out the groundwork for how an incoming team, as you heard Rick describe, could begin executing on that goal on day one. And so, like many of the other chapters, lots of people involved in writing the Department of Homeland Security chapter. Very proud of that work product. And I think that when you add in the personnel piece and the training, you're going to hear about more from Ed, Pillars 2 and 3. This really would tee up an incoming administration to achieve more than we've ever seen under a conservative president before, which is exactly what we want to tee up the next conservative president to do. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ed Corrigan. I guess I should have mentioned I'm at Center for Renewing America these days, which is set up by Russ Vought, who you saw in this video here. He's former OMB. Obviously, I was at DHS. And that's kind of where I hang my think tank hat. And I can attest to to use Ed's word from earlier today, the ecumenical nature across the conservative movement of this whole effort. And that only makes it stronger. It really does. It's a very powerful way to see a bunch of individualists and organizations that value individual liberty set aside their own interests to work just purely on behalf of good conservative policy has produced a really outstanding product. And I'll hand it over to Ed Corrigan.
Right, so we're just going to pause again there. So I think where we're going next, I'm going inside because it is raining now. And it is actually thundering as well. Is God angry at me because I'm pro-Trump? No, it's just September. It's just September in England. Alright, Barry. It's my landlord. Right. Let's keep going.
So I'm Ed Corrigan. I'm the president of the Conservative Partnership Institute. Really proud to be a part of this project. So many of you are focused rightly every 2 years on electing the right people, and so much of your time and energy and resources are put toward that effort. But so often we ignore what happens the day after you win. And that's what this project is all about, because that's so, particularly with the presidency, it's so important. And basically you're going to get a chance to flip through the policy recommendations, having all of that. Rick and I were up in Trump Tower in the winter of.
Okay. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I haven't heard a hell of a lot from Kamala. But in the UK, what we do is typically the main parties put out manifestos with their main priorities, and that's kind of what you're voting for, because we don't vote for people, right? We vote for parties. And whichever party wins the most seats in the Houses of Parliament, that's the leader of their party becomes the Prime Minister. So we vote for policies. So, like, I get this, right? Because you've been elected because you said you were going to do some stuff. So, yeah, that stuff should be laid out and made clear, and that should be the stuff that the government works on. Because, I guess that's kind of why you were elected. Yeah, so, okay.
2016, I was working on the personnel project. Rick was running the whole operation. It's just so important. Getting the right people, and that's what that we've been focused on. Is the personnel database is going to be robust. It's going to provide strong recommendations, and in addition, we're going to have elaborate training programs for folks who want to come in and want to serve, and giving them the
Yeah, this bit does concern me. I'm not going to pretend, but maybe they're just going to go like a level down on like the middle management to make sure that, because 2016 did expose a lot of issues with career civil servants who have been there for a long time, and like I said, District of Columbia, they're mostly Democrat-leaning, Democrat voters. They're probably not on board with conservative policy. So maybe you do need to go a layer down with presidential appointees, or I don't feel massively comfortable about it, but I do understand it because of what was exposed in 2016. And most of you that are left-leaning, you won't agree with that. But I don't think we're talking about the whole civil service and the whole federal government workforce. We're just talking about people in key positions that might have an influence over stuff. And I can understand your concerns, I do. And then it does require a level of, I don't know, trust, belief, information, understand what the issues were. But again, the best I can do is liken it to a multinational company where if there's a change of ownership, yeah, it's not unusual. Like you bring your own people in, right? It's not unusual up to the level that we're used to. John Kirby, Ben Sullivan, the White House press secretaries. There are certain positions that are attached to an administration. Maybe that just needs to go one level down, because we did see some shady stuff in 2016 through Trump's presidency, and it's not that unusual. And well, I mean, it's not that unusual. I mean, when a company takes over another company, you just put your but yeah, and then the function of the federal government should be to execute because a president is elected because they put forward policies, and then people vote for that, and then that gives them a mandate, and that should mean executing the policies that they ran on. So that's the will of the people. So people within the federal government should be executing the will of the people. And yeah, take the lobbyists out. All right, let's carry on. I've got concerns. I'm not dismissing concerns, but I'm having an open mind, and it doesn't sound that radical to me.
Recommendations of the toolkit, and how to navigate it, and from people who have done it before and have been successful at it. So I just want to say, as Ken, you're going to hear a lot of folks say, it would be for the most powerful think tank in America, it would be very easy to go it alone on a project like this. That's not what happened here. Under the leadership of Kevin Roberts and Paul Dans and Spencer and Steve Groves and others, this has been really a team effort. You got 50 different conservative organizations have contributed to this. That's what makes this a strong product. No presidential campaign or president is going to be able to ignore it. This is going to give them the tools to really be successful. And so really grateful and proud of the team for what they've done on this.
I'm not going to pretend, right, a lot of this is boring, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I've heard a lot about Project 2025. So I just want to try and I've avoided looking at it because I don't want to give it views. And anyway, let's just keep going, and we're nearly at the end now of this. And then I've just got one other thing to show you, and then I think we're probably done. Okay. And I did already recommend the ABC Australia documentary on what the left, okay, fine, what the anti-Trumpers, never Trumpers are suggesting Project 2025 is. But, and again, I get it, but I can also see where they're coming from. And this is just a think tank, and this isn't so dissimilar to a takeover of a large multinational organization, and you want to bring in a new mission statement, you want to, or a new CEO. A new CEO takes over, a new managing director takes over a company, and they've got their own, and they want to, and then you've just naturally, with human beings, we don't like change and stuff like that. We've got resistance, we've got our own ideas. Maybe the political appointees need to go a layer down. Maybe civil service jobs need to be time limited or something. And again, I remind you, the District of Columbia and the people that work in Washington, they're predominantly Democrats. So a Republican that comes into office and wants to execute policy, yeah, so maybe that's it. You just need to go like a layer down and get into some of the middle management positions. Okay, it's nearly done.
Yes, and thank you, Ed, for that remark. I would say, this has never happened in our movement. We've never had this coming together of the entire movement to prepare for one event, day one, January 20th. And what brings all these organizations together? Our common theme is to take down the administrative state, the bureaucracy, and you're going to, it's not as easy done as it is said. The bottom line is that we need to have an army of conservatives ready to march in day one. And they don't even know who they are.
Yeah, I don't like that language, okay? An army of conservatives ready to march in. I don't like that language. I don't think it's appropriate. I think we should bring it back to a normal analogy of just, it's a change of ownership. It's a change of direction and the point of the government is to execute the will of the people. So and then there's a new president elected. So that's a mandate that he's been given by the people because he received the votes. So then there are policies that need to be executed. And the people who are in a position to execute those policies, yes, they should be behaving accordingly. Anyway, this is nearly over. I'm just going to skip this now, right? And then I think some of the... Right, have a look at this, right? Because I said in my previous video, I do believe... so that's the Heritage Foundation. They're talking about it. And I will say that guy, what's his name? Dan. Don't think it's up there now. Whatever his name is, his language, his phrasing, that's a little bit worrying. But the principles of what they're talking about, it makes sense to me. But let's have a look at what the Lincoln Project is putting. Now, this is an anti-Trump Republican group. I probably will get struck for this. Let's see one of their adverts on, because this is where it goes sideways. This is where a lot of the propaganda and the false information is coming from. This is where it starts to get into crazy town. And remember, anything that's said about Project 2025 is it's a suggestion by the Heritage Foundation, which in my mind, to me, sounds very much like a large organisation, a business that is having a change of ownership, a change of policy direction, and then they just want to make sure that that's communicated and supported at all levels of the organisation. And I get it. I've got some concerns about it as well. Don't go overboard with it, But again, Trump hasn't endorsed this. This isn't legislation. This is just a framework for how to do a transition. And Republicans are potentially disadvantaged when a Republican takes office in Washington, D.C., because the majority of people that work in Washington, D.C. are Democrats. It's not a mystery, okay? Oh, and then also, if you can get lobbying out of politics, and the people who are working in the federal government are going to put forward legislative ideas, or ideally it would be coming from Congress people, congressmen and women, wouldn't it? It would be coming from them. But it shouldn't be coming, but you've got to get rid of the lobbyists. And you do need to know where your priorities are. Because a person who gets elected as the president or the prime minister, they're elected on a mandate. They're elected, and they're elected based on a manifesto that they put forward, and people want those things to be executed. It's not... take all the paranoia and Trump's not... Don't believe he's the Antichrist. Right, come on, here we go. Let's see what Lincoln Project is doing.
Welcome to the Trump 2024 convention, brought to you by Project 2025. This week in the horrible city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you'll see the best of the Trump Project 2025 party. It's a bold vision for a bright future. With Trump Project 2025, you'll love how new tariffs will make everything more expensive and set off runaway inflation. We know you'll appreciate paying for the big tax cut our struggling billionaires need. When you seniors are done freeloading, check out Project 2025's plan to end Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So get out of that nursing home bed and get back to work. And ladies, this convention...
Yeah, so everything that's being said so far, I think it's just inflammatory. And again, Project 2025, it's a think tank. As far as I understand it from the Heritage Foundation and what they've put forward, it's just a plan on how to transition. They're not putting forward policy. They're not suggesting that end Medicaid, Medicare. So this, to me, is just straight up propaganda from an anti-Trump, never Trump Republican. But yeah, carry on.
has so much in store for you. With Project 2025, you'll learn how good you'll have it in the kitchen. Girls, if your marriage isn't working out, you'll need Project 2025's helpful tips to keep the romance alive, even if he's abusive, because we're getting rid of divorce. And if Mr. Wrong gets you pregnant, welcome to motherhood, because we've ended Roe.
Like how? Like none of this even. You've ended Roe v. Wade. What did it do? It pushed the decision back to the states. Right, divorce. That would be a policy decision. It's not going to do it with the executive order, is it? And I remind you again, I'll be a dictator for one day. One day. I don't think Trump wants to do executive orders, but if he gets blocked by Congress, he will. But like the role of Congress is to pass legislation, and if they're not doing their jobs and something needs to be done, then he'll do it. But again, I remind you, I don't know the numbers. Maybe we should look that up in a minute. But how many of Trump's executive orders did Biden leave in place? If he's that offensive and that much of a threat to democracy, because like I know they kept tariffs on China, because they work. The stuff, like the border stuff worked, but that's not there. But they took the border stuff. They removed his executive, they reversed his, whatever. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't dismiss it like that. A lot of what Trump accomplished with the border, he did it through executive orders. Biden, on his first day in office, reversed those executive orders. And then there's all this to do about trying to pass an immigration bill or a bill that works on the border or whatever it is. Biden could have at any time, he could have done executive orders to put stuff back in place. His own stuff, not necessarily Trump stuff. He could have done anything, but he didn't. Instead, he's having a fight with the Supreme Court about whether or not the President of the United States can dismiss all student loans and stuff like that. He didn't care about the border. It's not a priority to them. They want illegal immigrants. Why? Because think about the humanitarian crisis that you have on your border. Forget about the fact when they come across and then they're entering America and what impact that has on legal migrants or Americans or, legal citizens living in America. Forget that. What about the humanitarian crisis that happens to people who have to travel up through South and Central America to get to that border? It's not right. Anyway, yeah, okay.
V. Wade, and we're going to criminalize birth control. And minorities, well, you didn't need those silly voting rights anyway.
Yeah, but they're not criminalising birth control. You heard it right at the beginning. I don't know what drug that was, that one drug that they named, whether it's the morning after pill or it might be something with the medical abortion 8 weeks. But again, Roe v. Wade, the reverse of Roe v. Wade, all that did was put abortion law back to the states. Like it's just not, a woman's right to have an A word is not protected within the Constitution. And it shouldn't be determined by federal government unless you can reach a consensus. And you can't reach a consensus at the moment. So it does make sense to put it back to the states. So if you have an issue with the reversal of Roe v. Wade, take it up with your state representatives. Take it up with your state government. Get the legislation within your state changed. But it's not a federal government issue. Federal government should be dealing with international things like trade, war, defense, the overall economy. Well, but then what do they actually do with the economy? Okay, yeah. So they take in tax revenue and they should use that money to redirect it into areas of urban development or something to try and, of course, the social security state, take care of our vulnerable citizens. But that doesn't include abortion. It should stay with the state. No one's taking that right away from you. And if your state takes that right away from you, take it up with your state representatives.
Jews, Muslims, Mormons, and other fake religions, you'll get a head start on learning America is a Christian nation. Project 2025 is Donald Trump's plan for your future, and it couldn't be any brighter.
Project 2025 Bright Future Guarantee applies to white evangelical Christian men only. Other conditions may apply. Offer not valid in a functioning republic.
Yeah, so the Lincoln Project, they hate him. Let's just check this out.
Have you heard the latest about North Carolina Republican candidate for governor Mark Robinson? It's all true. He's been seen in public with a convicted felon. Not just any felon, but a felon who's found liable for sexual assault by his hometown jury. He even praises the felon.
On this stage today, I am endorsing Donald J. Trump as the President of the United States of America.
A weirdo. He loves the felon, and the felon loves widow.
This is Martin Luther King on steroids.
Everything you've heard about Mark Robinson and Donald Trump is true. They deserve each other. But North Carolina and America deserve better.
Yeah, so this is, they may as well be Democrats.
Task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened.
There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United.
I just think that a lot of what people hear and understand or think that they know about Project 2025 actually comes from the Lincoln Project, and you can see how they lean, and this is, I love it when these searches are, look, Project 2024, right, because you don't have any Project 2025 stuff, do you? But they do have Project 2025 stuff. But it gets hidden on a search. I think... So then you have to understand as well that, big tech is biased as well. Yeah, okay, now they probably will strike me.
They say Project 2025 will change your life. For once, they're telling the truth.
Donald Trump gets in for 4 more years. He's going full throttle.
Project 2025 is Trump's plan to make America different, less free, less fair, less American. It's a roadmap for total control. Trump's control.
The gloves are off. There are no...
Right, so we've spent the best part of an hour listening to the people who are actually behind Project 2025 talking about it. And I think this is the stuff that's hitting the mainstream media, is this Lincoln Project with the anti-Trump, never Trump. I think they're the ones that are putting out like the propaganda stuff and fueling this paranoia and again, because he hasn't endorsed it, it's not his. I believe he's got something like Agenda 47 or something. That's actually his. Project 2025 is not. Okay. He hasn't endorsed it. He's not involved with it. It's from a think tank. It's a conservative coalition and it's like when a business takes over another business and how to implement which is all, and I get it, right? Maybe I'm being naive, but to me it all sounds like, I elect a new president. I want that president to carry out a manifesto that I voted for, and in order for him to do that, then I don't understand, and I think it's paranoid, and I think that you don't have a lot of faith in the Constitution and stuff. You believe this stuff, but let's carry on, because this works for the mainstream media. This is what they pick up. This is what they report on. This is what they're telling you. And this is why I say the mainstream media lies to you. And this is why you've got to go and check it for yourself.
Not just of the government, of your life, of your body, of every one of your freedoms, of what you can read and say and